I think most salespeople understand that they need to be good listeners in order to be effective as salespeople. Unfortunately, the challenge is that many times they don't know what to listen for. For example, is it more important to get attitudes and opinions, or more important to get facts about the solution that you're going to sell? And by the way, which one do you think your salespeople are focused on? Let's find out. This is Sales Untraining, a very different kind of sales podcast. 3 out of 4 salespeople are failing. They're falling short of their revenue. Why doesn't sales training work? That's what this sales podcast is about. It's your weekly sales strategy guide designed to rewire your sales brain. Welcome to Sales Untraining. I'm Kelly Riggs. So good to have you alongside, and thanks for joining me on the podcast. I hope you're a subscriber. I hope you've liked the podcast, you've subscribed to it, but way more important, I hope perhaps you've shared it with someone else in the sales leadership role that needs to be a part of this discussion. This is your weekly sales strategy guide that is designed to completely rewire your sales brain. Well, this is the second in a 3-part series on listening, which, as we've discussed, absolutely critical skill, not quite as important as asking the right questions, but that's where great listening begins. When you've asked the right questions and you're really clued into what's going on, what the answers are, and paying attention and listening, not to respond, but to learn and to be able to use that information, that's where good listening begins. It's really interesting to think about what happens in a sales call. There was a book that came out in about 2010 called The Invisible Gorilla. I don't know if you've heard of it. I suspect many of you have. And if you go Google Invisible Gorilla on YouTube, you'll see the actual experiment that was done. It's an experiment where they took people and said, all right, I want you to watch this video, and I want you to watch these people who all have the same clothing on. If I remember correctly, they're all wearing white uniforms, but I'm not sure about that. But you need to count the number of times that they pass a basketball from one person to the next. So you watch the video and they're passing the basketball and you're like 1, 2, 3, right? You just keep going and you keep going, and then it ends and it says, okay, how many did you get? And you go, oh, that was easy. It was whatever the number is. And they go, okay, did you see the invisible gorilla? I'm sorry, what? What do you mean, the invisible gorilla? Turns out that the experiment is, can you be so focused on certain things that you miss completely things that are happening right out in the open? And the fact of the matter is, the number of people that absolutely miss the invisible gorilla, the actual gorilla, because what's happening is someone in a gorilla suit, a black gorilla suit, goes across the screen dancing and waving their arms and all that. And you think, there is absolutely no way, it is impossible that I missed that. I forget how high the number is. I want to say 60, 70%, something like that, of people completely, utterly miss the gorilla. And so they call it the invisible gorilla. And the lesson learned there is that focus can be so narrow that you can't see the big picture and things that are going on around you. Well, if anything could describe a sales call better than that, I'd like to hear it, because that, my friends, is very, very common. When I first started in sales, I had a fantastic sales manager in my mid-20s that I worked for a period of time, and we would go out and he would ride with me and we'd make sales calls together. And we would pre-plan the call, who was going to lead and whether or not I was going to watch and learn, or if I was going to take the lead and all of that. But we'd come out and do what he called sidewalk coaching. We'd come out of the call, and at the sidewalk, we would be having a conversation. And he would frequently ask me, well, did you hear when he asked this? What did you think when he said this? Did you see the way he answered this question? And it was amazing how many times I would say, no, I have no idea. Did he do that? Did he answer that question? Did he ask that question? I didn't see him do that. And it was just one of those things that when we're hyper focused on what we're going to say next and hyper focused on selling, we start to miss the bigger picture. That's why I say we oftentimes don't even know what to listen for. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we're missing because we're too in our head. In the OMG assessment of the 21 specific sales competencies, which I've mentioned multiple times and I'm affiliated with and I use for clients when we're evaluating sales teams or when we're evaluating candidates to take a sales position. As an aside, why do you ask? Because it's 90% predictive, validated by an outside organization, 90% predictive of finding the right salesperson. They have one of the 21 sales competencies, stays in the moment. And what that means is when you're talking, I'm actually listening. I am actually engaged. I'm hearing and I'm responding, not to just wait to speak and to bring up a new point based on what you just said, but to actually engage in conversation, in dialogue. You see, there's a tremendous difference between dialogue and interrogation. And frankly, when salespeople ask questions, a vast majority of the time, they're just interrogating the prospect. They're getting the information that they need to fill in the boxes and the blanks that will enable them to know exactly what to sell. Not the challenges per se, not the issues, not the how do you feel about those kinds of things. It's just simply to find out factual data. And that is why so many sales calls result in salespeople doing most of the talking. If you think about most conversations that we have in the real world, many times we're simply waiting for the other person to finish talking, as we talked about in the previous episode, so that we can then share our stories that are similar to what they're saying. So if they talk about going on vacation to a certain place, hey, yes, I've gone there and I've vacationed there and here's what we did. And it tends to be kind of a one-upsmanship kind of thing, or me sharing what I've done that's similar to you so that, I'm providing input into the conversation. But in terms of actually finding out what's important to you and making you feel valued and valuing your feedback, I'm just simply contributing to the noise. I'm not asking you more questions about you. I want you to think about what happens. For example, if you go into, let's say you go to a Buffalo Wild Wings, a sports bar of some kind, whatever, you're watching your favorite team and someone new sits down and they start cheering for the same team or cheering for the other team, and you get engaged in conversation. It's amazing to me how often that conversation sounds different because I don't know them. And most people have some level of genuine curiosity about something new. So what do you do for a living? Wow, how long have you been doing that? So do you work for a company here in town? I mean, there's this very natural tendency to be curious, which, as you recall from last episode, we talk about that is one of the real critical keys to effective listening, is to listen to what's being said and to dive deeper into what you're hearing so that you get more information. If I'm talking to a new neighbor across the backyard fence, I don't say, hey, where are you from? And they say, well, we just moved here from Kansas City, Missouri. Oh, well, that's great. Hey, listen, I've got to go finish the yard and we'll talk to you later. I don't say, oh, Kansas City? No kidding. Listen, I grew up in Kansas City and we went to school at a certain high school, and I don't just take over typically. Are there people who do that? Yes. But typically, when we meet someone new, we're curious about details. We're curious, typically, again, about things that are going on in their world because we want to get to know them. But we don't apply that in a sales call with a new person. No. Building rapport, talked about last episode. It's like, let me match a story with your story, or let me communicate to you I've had similar interests or similar experiences, or I do or don't like your team, but I'm going to talk about me as much as you talk about you, so I never get any depth in terms of understanding who you are, where you've come from, what you've done before, how long you've been in this job, what kinds of challenges have you had in your role. I just don't go exploring there. And therein lies a part of the big problem. We don't know what to listen for because we're not actually there to do what we say we're there to do, and that is to build a relationship. If I have a genuine empathy for you as an individual, then I'm going to be genuinely curious, and I'm going to be listening for the things that you do and have done and experiences you've had, and I'm going to find out more about them. Why? Because I'm genuinely empathetic and I care about you as an individual. That is the foundation of building a real relationship with people. I've talked in great length about the fallacy behind selling is all about building relationships. Is it? Yes. The problem is what we define as a relationship is not actually a real relationship in the real world. Building rapport is not a relationship. It's the precursor to a relationship. It's like suggesting that I went out on one date with someone and suddenly we're going to get married. Or worse yet, I went out on that first date and we had dinner and suddenly we're soulmates. It just doesn't work that way in human psychology, almost without exception. Well, coming up next, what I want to take a look at is the biggest mistake that amateur salespeople make, and it has everything to do with listening. Hey, thanks for making Sales Untraining your first listen of the week. And if you find something you like, if you hear something that's interesting, I hope you'll share it with somebody you know. You can find out more about me at bizlockerroom.com or email me, kelly@bizlockerroom.com. Now back to the show. Being present is important. You know why? In many cases, you represent a change. If it's a brand new customer, now look, it's important no matter when and who you're delivering to and what number you are in terms of the number of sales you've made. But that first one for a brand new customer, folks, that one's critical, right? You need the experience to be world class. You need to be getting emails that say, could not have imagined it would go this well. You guys made it easy. Hey, we had a hiccup or two. You were all over it. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. That's what you want. Hey, welcome back. Sales Untraining. I'm Kelly Riggs, and we're talking about listening. This, the second in a three-part series on listening. And of course, we've put a lot of emphasis on asking good questions. In fact, where a lot of salespeople, most salespeople, really create huge stumbling blocks for themselves in the sales process is the questions they do ask are fact-based questions. They don't create dialogue, and they don't even know what they're listening for. To do this, we have to start with the right kinds of questions to get the party started, to get the dialogue going. We need to ask opinion-based questions, idea-based questions, concept-based questions, the kinds of things, what do you think about? What kinds of issues are you having? What kinds of challenges have you faced? Then we are listening for the opportunity to dig deeper. We're listening for the opportunity to ask the next question. It's hard to do that if you don't program your mind to think that way, because again, we have become programmed, and essentially because we've been trained this way, trained to talk specifically about our product, that the first time we see an opening to start selling, then what we do is we jump on it. And the questions we are asking are based on getting facts about what to sell. When I get an opportunity that you need something, then I immediately turn my mind to selling. And that, my friends, is the single biggest amateur mistake that I see on a regular basis. I can induce it in role play. I can cause people to do it. I mean, as simple as we're doing a role play, you come in and introduce yourself, and I say, well, hey, tell me what you're selling today. And because you're not prepared for it, you immediately say, well, I'm so-and-so from XYZ company, and we sell such and such. Well, tell me more about your products. And wow, they're interested in my products right off the bat. Well, no, they're really not. I hate to tell you that. They're really not. 98% of the time, they're not. They just want to get some information and move you on your way. But information is not persuasive, and information is never going to take you anywhere near a decision that you so desperately crave, because people don't buy products. They buy what the products do for them. So what you need to know, the type of questions you need to ask, are to provide some sort of doorway into their mind that will tell you what kinds of things are they interested in and why. Why are they talking to you? I mean, so many times a very simple starter is, listen, I appreciate the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation. I'm curious why you would have an interest in talking about these kinds of products. They say, well, but you just ask them about products. No, why are you interested in talking about these kinds of products? What prompted you to call us? What kinds of issues have you been confronted with that you feel like you need to begin to explore the kinds of products that we're going to be talking about? Those kinds of things. And there's 100 nuanced ways to ask really intelligent idea or opinion-based questions so that I can engage people in a conversation. Again, this is what we do when we're talking to regular people. If I ask you, hey, where are you from? And you say, well, I'm from Lexington, Kentucky. Oh, well, fantastic. That's listen, I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay, missed an opportunity there. Lexington, Kentucky. So big thing. The only thing I know about Lexington is horses, and it's a big horse, part of the world where they race horses and so forth. Is that something you've done in the past? Do you know anybody there? I don't have to set it up that way. I can say, hey, did you grow up there? Were you born there? Looking for the opportunity to ask the next question. Why? Why, you're asking? Why am I spending all my time doing this? Because last time I checked, you believe that selling is about building relationships. Well, how about you go ahead and build one? How do you do that? You get interested in people. You don't ask fact-based questions so you can then make that big amateur mistake and start selling right away. And I have seen it. If I've seen it once, I've seen it a couple thousand times. It's predictable, and you can induce people into it, and your prospects, your buyers will do that. And it's most prevalent at a trade show. People walk in and say, hey, I noticed you've got a new model here. Tell me about that. And we go, oh, yeah, let me tell you about the new model. Why are they looking at this model? What kind of work do they do? What role do they play in the company they're in? Is this, they have a general interest or a specific interest? Why is that? We don't even think about listening for the next opportunity to ask a deeper question. Listen, if you want to be seen as a salesperson, if you want to get labeled as a salesperson, this is the fastest way that I know how to do it. And that is to come into the first call with the mindset that it's taken me months to get in front of this individual. I finally get in front of them. I've got to shoot every bullet in my gun. I've got to tell them everything I know. I've got to share my passion for our products with them. And my friends, they don't care. They absolutely do not care. Now, you have something that could change their business, could change their outcomes, could solve a problem, could give them back more time. All of those things that they're truly interested in, they will, listen to me, business people will give you the next meeting. They will. But if you come in and they don't perceive that you're that person that can impact their business in a very productive way, and it's the first time we've ever met and I perceive you to be just another salesperson, I'm going to act interested to get rid of you. Or I'm just going to say, hey, thanks for stopping by. We're really not interested in this point in time. Or, hey, thanks for stopping by. Do you have a catalog? Do you have information? Do you have something you can leave with us? In some cases, I've interacted with people just flat out rude. Well, listen, I don't have an interest, so I've got things to do and I need to move on. That may not happen to you, probably won't, but people will say things like, yes, that's fantastic. Hey, that's a good looking piece of product there. Could you get me a quote? And salespeople will run back to the sales manager and tell them they've got a live opportunity. Sorry, you don't. Listen, coming up in the third in our 3-part series on listening, we're going to talk about the questions you don't ask that you should be asking. See you next time.
Sales Untraining is a production of Business Locker Room and Pod About It Productions. Music and editing by Doug Branson. To get more Kelly, visit bizlockerroom.com.